Friends, Fever fans, welcome back to another episode of Fever Replay. We got your Fever news, we got your Fever breakdown of the games, and it was quite a week. But before I forget, this week's episode is brought to you once again by the love of the game. Do you like doing things, but nobody seems to care? Do it for the love of the game. I'm Chris Ord, and once again joined by the fantastic Keisha Gallagher. Say hi, Keisha.
Howdy.
Hello. How are you today?
I'm doing well. It has been a fantastic week of basketball. How are you?
Yeah, jam-packed week of basketball, not just for us, for everybody. Also, the Pacers are in the mix. It's an exciting time to be a fan here in Indy. I love it. We're having a good time. We also just had the Indy 500. Do you watch racing?
I do not.
Yeah, I don't really either, but I moved here. I'm trying real hard, and I gotta say I did enjoy it. We're not gonna talk about it, but I did enjoy myself watching. I took a nap during it, which was nice also, so you got a little bit of sports, a little bit of napping. It's kind of like watching baseball, But anyway, I digress. We had a big week here, continuing our journey into this new season. And we're going to get into it. But before we get too deep into it, if you haven't heard yet, sit down. Are you sitting? You sitting, Keisha?
I'm actually laying, which is almost better than sitting, because this is news.
Wow, that is a lot of info to share with our audience, but good. Good to know. Keisha lays down while she podcasts. Caitlin Clark is injured. They say it is a quad strain, and at minimum, 2 weeks out. Not fun. They didn't give us a lot more info. That news came out today. Today we're recording on Monday, May 26th. So 2 weeks without Caitlin Clark, they said, and they'll reevaluate. Not cool. How are we going to do this, Keisha?
Well, I think this presents a great opportunity for the rest of the team to show what they're made of and to step up, because this game of basketball is sometimes there are injuries, sometimes you get into foul trouble, and you're not always going to have the lineup and the players that you're hoping to be available. But these first few games, I think we've seen a lot of people step up in leadership in certain roles. So I think if there was going to be an injury like this for the Fever, this may be the ideal time, because it's the start of the season. They're on kind of a heater when it comes to close games. And again, not a very weak bench. Not a lot of weaknesses.
No, very strong. I agree. So, there's two ways I look at this, and I see them both very clearly at the same time. One is, you're right. Like I've seen many times in basketball, there's only 5 people on the court. And there's not that many minutes to go around, truth be told. And when one of your leaders goes down early in a season where you have plenty of time to catch up, it can give a lot of people a lot of reps that they wouldn't normally have, which can pay dividends later. So, first thing, it's gosh, if that's going to happen, now's a good time. That is the first thing I've felt. But then the second thing I felt was, boy, it would be nice, we got all these new players, to be able to, install our offense, have our linchpin, this very center of our team, the distributor, the leader in there, and to be able to make sure everyone understands their role around them. It almost makes me nervous for us to grow too much without her and then have to fit her back in. Oh, I don't like that. It's a
lot of growing pains, that is for sure. But again, with this new lineup, you are bringing a lot of seniority and experience to the table. I mean, Kelsey Mitchell, no slum. She's going to bring it. She's going to bring it.
At all.
No. And I feel like she, over the last 3 games, has shown that she's not afraid to attack, and she knows when to turn it on. So I think you're going to see a Lexi Hull, a Sophie Cunningham really show what their grit is and what they're made of when it comes to those guard roles.
Agreed. And we talk about the bench being strong. we have a lot of ball handlers. We have Caitlin, who's going to be out. We have Sydney Colson, Sophie Cunningham, Lexi Holm, Kelsey Mitchell, all of whom are very comfortable handling the ball. We're actually very fortunate to have so much depth on that end. But yeah, it just sucks. It just sucks. So before we get too into the games, there's one other thing I wanted to touch on. So basically, Coach Stephanie White brought up in the post game for the Liberty game, she brought up very pointedly that she hasn't liked the refs' calls. She said that she sees a clear bias against them. In fact, she said that there's a free throw discrepancy of 31 from the Fever versus the other teams in the first 3 games, which is significant. There's a couple things I like about her bringing this up. One, I don't feel like the WNBA reffing is up to the par of other professional leagues. And I don't like the reffing of other professional leagues. And I have found WNBA reffing to be by far the worst of any legitimate professional sport. So calling them out, I have no problem with it. The other thing I like is I feel like, having watched the game, seeing the players barking a lot at the refs, I have a very strong feeling that Stephanie went into the locker room, said, yeah, I get it, it's bullshit, let me handle it, guys. Like, I promise you, I'm going to do what I can, You guys focus on what's going on the court, And then she's like, to show you, I'm going to walk out there and talk about it right now. Which, you've seen things like this in the past. If the people are talking on the court, that's one thing. But if the coach comes out and says it in a press conference, that's another thing. That is her putting herself out there. She could get fined for something like that. That's really the coach, putting themselves out and saying, I don't like what I'm seeing. I want it to change. And I like that kind of leadership a lot.
I agree. I think that she is stepping up for her team. She is doing what a coach should do in these instances. And I think it's important for her to use those opportunities to bring poor officiating to the media because it's such a high level of basketball, because there are more eyes on women's basketball than ever before. And if we want to keep drawing in viewers, if we want people to watch these games, there has to be good officiating. There has to be. So many of my notes in the last 3 games are just the refs suck in all caps because I'm pissed. I hate when the referees negatively impact a game because they're taking an insane amount of time to review calls, or they're blowing calls, or they're calling fouls out of position. The amount of times I have yelled, you are not in position to make that call at a television is unhealthy. I'm worried about myself. I shouldn't be screaming like this. It's not right. And I think that I love when a coach steps up for her players and is just calling spades. So I tip my hat to Coach White on that one. I think that was professional. I think it was mature. She probably will get fined, but sometimes you got to be saying things.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's jump into the first game of last week, which was on Tuesday against the Atlanta Dream, who was somebody we saw in preseason. This game, I think, really highlights that there is a big difference between a preseason game and an in-season game, which we knew. I don't think any of us were like, oh, these guys are chumps. But at the same time, stark difference between the 2 games. Very good game, though, I felt. What were your thoughts? Why do you think we ended up losing that game? 91-90. Close game right to the end.
I mean, this speaks to all of basketball this past week, but free throws were a huge problem. They were a huge problem. Also, in this game, something that you don't really want to do when you have a Brittany Griner or a Brianna Jones is they gave up 12 offensive rebounds to some of the talented, tall people down low who love a putback opportunity. So I thought that those were 2 pretty big weaknesses. And then the turnovers weren't drastically bad, but you can't give these opportunities away like that, especially to a team that we're so close to when it comes to just competitive level competition across the board, guard for guard, post for post. I didn't see a point or a player matchup where I really thought they're out talenting us right now, or they're outplaying us. It really was just shot for shot, an aggressive, fast paced game. But those free throws were, I hated the free throws. Free throws overall.
Yeah, it's always hard as a fan when you're watching your team just brick free throws. You know, my wife walked in during one of them and was like, "Why do they keep missing those?" And I was like, "I do not know."
Well,
it's because that's the one thing. Like, you know, I got a basketball court on my driveway, and you know, the only line that I've painted onto the ground is the free throw line. And guess what? I go out there, shoot a couple of free throws. You know, it's not too hard. And I gotta tell you, I hit a lot of them, Keisha. It's a very predictable shot. I get it's harder. I get there's lots of pressure, but they are paid. I mean, arguably not that much money. You know, I really shouldn't bring that up, but they are paid at least enough to practice free throws.
Also, your wife is not someone who ever misses free throws. I remember that mechanical shot like it was yesterday.
Yeah, no, when she critiques them, it comes from a place of knowledge. She goes,
for sure.
Should miss those.
Shouldn't miss them. No, and it
I
is
don't even know
frustrating.
at this. I don't know what that means. Like, I have yet to, as a basketball fan, know what it means when your team has an off night on free throws.
I really don't know. Because it wasn't just, I know that you're just watching the Fever, but it wasn't just the Fever. This was like a league issue this week. People were missing free throws who never miss free throws. It was wildly bad. But
Maybe
just to the Fever.
They didn't screw the hoop in all the way. And so the hoops were out a bit.
Definitely that. Yeah.
Could have been that.
Hoop screws.
I'll look into it.
Hoop screws. Yeah.
When hoops
Classic.
aren't screwed, the team gets screwed.
Ooh. You like that one?
I didn't. It wasn't good.
My other critique on this game though was there were periods of time where I felt like the ball movement was bad. There was too much dribbling to nowhere, and there was not enough ball movement, specifically in that Tuesday game against the Dream. And I don't feel like that's common for the Fever. I feel like ball movement had been pretty good up until that game, but I don't know.
Mm-hmm. If the hoop isn't screwed, you are.
There you go. That's way better.
Yeah, no, I found it. That's way better.
Hold on to that one.
All right. So, what I saw was us getting beat consistently in the paint. Now, when you have players like Griner and Jones, you know, you expect to do pretty darn well in the paint. But it's not like we're a bunch of pushovers. We have a lot of length. We have a lot of strength. And I don't feel like we were ready to handle that kind of two-headed monster that they had out there. And it felt like that. It felt like the team was like, oops, we didn't address this. That's kind of like what it felt like to me halfway through the game. We were like, oh no. And we did, you know, we were getting fairly blown out, and we really turned the game around, which, like, to our credit, especially at the start of the half, or at the end of the half and then the start of the half, we really kind of shored things up. We let it go again, and then we brought it back at the end. And I felt like that's what it was. It's kind of like we got punched in the mouth real hard in the beginning, and we were like, oh, shoot. We need to come up with a new strategy for how we're handling this pressure in the paint.
Speaking of pressure, there was a lot of fronting and pressure on Clark, and I think that was a big factor for that loss. And I mean, the Fever responded well. A lot of other people stepped up, but I think that threw a wrench in a lot of plans for offense, and I saw that spill into Thursday. One of my big notes was she is being fronted aggressively, getting mugged by Ryan Howard.
And truth be told, like last year, the first half of the season, that was our big problem. Like, you know, I'm going to keep talking about the first half of the season last year like it was bad. Now, we had a decent first half of the season, but we weren't the same team we were in the second half. And what they were doing was exactly that. And we had trouble as a team learning that the second that happens, we need that release valve. We need someone to step up. And I think that this turnover in our roster has hurt that kind of instinctual, like, oh, I see they're sending two up or they're pressuring her, like as soon as she crosses the half, we need to get that release valve up so she can like toss it off to somebody and then do the dribble handoff and get it back. We started seeing that begin to click. That's something clearly Boston already knew. Like all of our two-man game between... Am I allowed to say two-man game? That's what it's called. I heard some of the reporters say two-woman game or two-person game. And I was like... It's
not...
You call it man defense still.
We're calling it two-man. Let's not get too far gone in our terminology. It's called two-man.
Thank you. So the two-man game between Caitlin and Aaliyah was still working. It still continues to be our fastball. But I feel like the rest of the team needs to catch up a little bit on, they're going to be pressuring Caitlin all day long. And we need to figure out how to instantly do it. Not like, how are we going to do this? But like, expect it to come, know exactly what to do when it happens. And like, be able to run our offense off of that being the beginning of our possession.
100%. I think also we could be benefiting a lot from off ball screens, just getting folks open. The back cuts and the backdoor passing has been incredible, but we got to open up. We should not be starting our offense with Caitlin getting mugged at the half court. That's not a great start. That's putting a lot of pressure on her to move the ball forward. That's bringing all of your offense closer to half court. Makes it harder for you to attack and use your bigs, and I don't like that.
I don't like it either. Yeah, so when it comes to the second game, the thing that's really nice for people like you and me is that this was like an instant rebuttal from both teams, really. Because you see... okay, there were some things highlighted for the Fever that they need to work on. And they came back. Turns out they did their homework. They worked on it, This is exactly what I was hoping when we got somebody like Stephanie White. This is exactly what we didn't have in the playoffs last year. We just kind of didn't adjust.
Right.
But we saw huge adjustments. On top of the adjustments, we also got Sophie Cunningham back, which cannot be overstated, was a huge factor. She fits in this roster. She is somebody we need. She's aggressive. She's works real hard. She's one of those hustle players that we absolutely need, but has the skill to back up the hustle. And it's fantastic. And it was a huge breath of fresh air having her in the second game.
Yeah, she brings a level of aggressiveness offensively and defensively that I don't think any other guards possess. Not to say that they don't have that skill set, but she comes ready to go.
Yeah. And then the other thing I saw, the biggest takeaway for me from the game was the way that we played. It was more Griner than Jones. So they've got two very strong, very impressive ladies on their team. But more the Griner, like if you look at the minutes, it felt like we, instead of throwing Boston up against Griner, we like did the opposite. It was like the second Griner was out, Boston was standing right there at the scorer's table like, I'm going in. And whenever Griner was in, we decided to go small. And we're like, yeah, they're stronger than us. They're taller than us. But we have very skilled players that are very fast. And we seem to focus on that foot speed aspect instead of focusing so much on just trying to fight them strength on strength, which I felt like was super effective.
Yeah, and I mean, to the Fever's benefit, they got Griner in trouble with her moving screens. Anticipating those screens was a huge factor because her being on the bench destroys the high and low benefit of having the Twin Towers basically running the front court like that. But I think that there was a big answer to the question, what can the Fever do when they are seeing teams this close together? And I think to your point about having maybe a more seasoned coach, a coach who has that kind of experience, is those answers were immediate. And the changes that I saw, the impact that a game of watching film that was really impressive. I thought that was a great turnaround for them. This game was definitely heated. Howard and Clark getting a little chippy at points, but hey, that's just good basketball, and I like it.
First off, I just want to say that Ryan Howard, incredible.
Yeah.
She's one of those good basketball players. And I did like that chippiness. I loved it when she got in Caitlin's. I love Caitlin Clark. I think that's clear. We've been over this many times. But when she is getting trash talked, the memeable faces that she makes are fantastic. She doesn't even need to say words. Her face will just portray this like
very expressive.
What are you talking about? I think what she said at that moment was, "I'm not afraid of you." But it wasn't like I'm not afraid of you. It was her face was like, "What are you talking about? I am not afraid," which is like just funny.
Just confusion over like what's happening here. I'm not scared of you. So what? You're up in my face.
What are you doing?
That was. I mean, but I did love that competitiveness. A question I have about this game is what is going on with Bonner's limited minutes? Is that a health concern? Is there something that I miss? Because if I have DeWanna Bonner, I'm playing DeWanna Bonner. I just feel like she's not getting the same minutes she had in the preseason. Didn't know if there was something I missed in a byline somewhere.
I haven't seen anything about her limited minutes besides the minutes that she's played. Like, besides what we can watch. One thing I'll point out about this one, plus and minus is not the end-all be-all. I don't think we've talked a lot about plus and minus here. But plus and minus is a great tool for kind of looking at lineups and different things. What plus and minus does really well is tell you how good your role players are. It is meant for role players. It's not a great starter thing because, like, if you're in almost the whole game, then your plus minus most likely is going to be whatever. You know, if you won the game by 9, you'll be plus 9. If you lost it, you'll be minus 9. You know, that's how it goes. DeWanna Bonner did not play the whole game. She was minus 12 with 0 points. It's, I don't know what's going on. She was simply not very effective out there. Maybe it's because she's tall and long, but not faster necessarily, and not stronger, most certainly, than both Griner and Jones. That was like maybe my feeling from it. I'm not sure if she's having trouble fitting into the team dynamic. That's been kind of my feeling. It feels like she's a little lost in the shuffle. Not necessarily her mentally, but her skill set appears to be lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
Like, we know what to do for sure, 100% with Natasha Howard. It seems like when we're having trouble scoring, Natasha says, give me the ball, I'll muscle some in there. And that's absolutely what we need. Whenever our offense sputters a little, so far this season, Natasha Howard's really found a way to do that. I don't know that we've found a way to make Bonner shine yet. And I'm not saying anything against the lady, but she's having trouble getting points on the board right now.
No, I agree. I was concerned. And I think, well, one thing I wanted to note though about Natasha Howard, when it comes to like these veteran players, Natasha Howard has found the sauce. 26 points in this game, 12 for 17. I was impressed. She was not letting up at all. And it was exciting to see. There are just so many, I don't know if it's the Caitlin Clark effect or if there's something that the Fever are running on these on-ball screens, but their pick and rolls are some of the best in the league right now. I don't know what it is. Mm-hmm. I know that Boston and Clark have a special relationship and they seem to find each other really well, but I found that same juice kind of happening with Howard, and I'd love that this game.
No, I feel like what it is that the Fever have on average, extremely high IQ for their starting five. And I think that their focus of their offense is a matchup hunting offense. And if you're going to matchup hunt, you're going to have to do pick and rolls. You're going to have to do ball screens. You're going to do double screens. You're going to do all kinds of screens. And we're seeing it. We're seeing pick and pops. We're seeing the short roll. We're seeing the long roll. We're seeing flare screens. It's fantastic. And I feel like, to me, that's what I'm seeing. Like, when we get the most success is we're seeing them picking who they want in these one-on-ones, who they want in the role, and really just continuing to hammer that again and again and again. And I feel like that's what we're seeing is, like, their main focus is moving the ball around. Like, I heard Stephanie talk about, Caitlin's been kind of having trouble. We've been putting her in bad situations where she's got to dribble at least 5 times. And it's like, whoa. Like, you don't hear people say that about their point guard. Like, your point guard dribbles a lot. But for her to right off the bat say, yeah, we're not putting her in great spots, she's got to dribble 5 times. It's like, oh, okay. These people really want to be handing off the ball. They really want to be dishing it around. Like, it's a main focus of the offense. So, yeah, I agree. It's exciting to watch.
But I mean, that was my takeaway to improve from the way they played against the Dream in the first game versus the second game. It was the ball movement. There was too much dribbling, and I love that she's identified that is not the way that they're going to be effective on offense. They need to move the ball so that their point guard can get away with some crossovers and attacking the basket for those layups that she's so good at. The same for Mitchell. Like, dribbling is great when you're going somewhere, but when you're just dribbling in a corner waiting for someone to come rescue you because you're being, double teamed again, not ideal. And not a great way for her to express herself in those frustrating moments.
It felt like there was some subtext there.
Okay. No.
Did you want to wait?
Well, I don't know. I'm going to say this, and this is just a little bit of backstory about me. I don't know if we've mentioned this before. I played basketball in high school and I played in junior college. Every coach I've ever had has been very strict, very specific about decorum on the court and what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. I have a hard time watching players have temper tantrums or overreact to bad calls, because in my mind, the best revenge on a bad call is to get the ball back or to make up for it. What I don't like, and this is not just a Caitlin Clark thing, it just happens to be a recent Caitlin Clark thing, I don't want you to throw your hands up and look at the ref when you just gave up a fast break. I don't like it. I don't like what that models to younger girls. I don't like what that models to girls in college. I don't like what it models to the fans, because you're right. It may have been a blown call, but the call was made. So what are you going to do about it? And that's my take on that.
All right. Well, first off, I mostly agree with you, because in my perfect world where I can put all the traits into an athlete that I'm a fan of, into, like, pull the levers, push the buttons, create the perfect one. No, I don't want that. I'd be like, get that out of here. I don't want any of that. Like, I want someone who's focused on what's going on and focused on the play, on basketball, making the best move. Yeah, that's what I want too. I agree with you 100%. That's not the world we live in, Keisha.
And speaking of that world...
Okay? Hey, no, it's my turn, Keisha.
No, but there was a lot of that, and the Fever versus Liberty game, there was a lot of that on both sides, and it was, ooh, boy.
Uh-huh. For me, the thing that I love most about Caitlin Clark is, I've shared before, I'm a huge Kobe fan. And when I first started watching her play, her and Kobe have very different games. They're not even close to the same kind of game. But what I saw was the same dedication to improvement and excellence on the court. And I think that part of that, sometimes, when you get that, you're going to also get a little bit of that other thing, which is when things break down that you didn't control, you are pretty pissed. And that's kind of what I see out of her. And I get it. Like, I'd like that to be cleaned up. I think it's going to get cleaned up. She's 23 years old. I'm really not worried about maturity. She's literally not mature yet. She will get there. But I accept it as a flaw. If we're going to have a flaw, that's a flaw I'm fine with. Because it actually comes with a huge pro, which is that this is a girl that is very dedicated to getting things right. And when something goes wrong like that, I get why she's pissed. Like my dad always used to say, why does Kobe not pass? Now, that's not the problem that Caitlin has. But I knew the answer to why Kobe doesn't pass. It's because when we needed to score, Kobe knew he was the best chance to score. And first off, he did pass a lot. He's ranked for assists. Anyways, I don't want to talk about it. But the reason that sometimes he was viewed as a ball hog is because he knew with the ball in his hands, if the game came down to it, he could give himself, the team, the best option to score. Like, that was the negative that comes with his positive. Do you know what I mean? And that's what I'm saying. Now, is that through rose-colored glasses? Yes, it is. I'm a huge Caitlin Clark fan.
Your Mamba colored glasses. Yeah, there might be a little bit of something there. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I agree. I don't, not to take away from her passion. I love that. I mean, getting upset when you do something wrong, it's fair and normal, very human. Alicia Gray does the same thing. She gets pissed, but she also will run back and get a steal or stop ball. And I think that's the next step in her game. Of course, there's always fine-tuning your actual skill set on the court, but that emotional maturity, that emotional intelligence, I think that's what I would like to see for her this season.
And I agree. It's the next step. I also see her, though, do some pretty amazing things while complaining. Like, I'll see her throw up her hands, and then they toss her the ball off the inbounds, and then she chucks it up, and she keeps talking to the ref. And that's kind of cool. I'm not going to lie. If you could do both, then I'm not even complaining.
I'm also coming from, as a Phoenix Mercury fan, Diana Taurasi probably spent more time on the court talking to the refs and complaining about stuff than any other player in the history of basketball, men and women. So I hear it and I get it. But yeah, that was my one thing that I really wanted to see. I hope to see change over the course of the season for her.
I agree. But before we move on to the next game, the big one versus the Liberty, the champs, the current reigning champs, let's take a quick break. Hey Fever fans, this episode is brought to you by Pure Joy. Pure Joy. It's good, right? Sometimes it gets mixed a little. It gets mixed a little with defeat, sadness, grief. But at the end of the day, pure joy is what you get when you're watching Fever basketball. Sometimes. At least not when Caitlin's injured. So next time you need a little something something, make sure it's uncut. Pure joy. All right, so let's dive into the last game of the week, which was versus the champs, the New York Liberty. It was a loss. It was a tough loss, straight down to the last second, really, where we honestly looked pretty good. We kind of talked last week about how this would give us a lot of answers, kind of show us where we're at, and I agree. Like, at the end of it, maybe it was because I watched it on the pool side, because they opened the pools here in the Midwest, something I didn't know happened when I lived in California, but they closed the pools for 3 seasons out of the year. They just opened them, so I was sitting by the pool as my kids were playing, and I didn't feel that bad. After we lost, I was like, hey, you know what? We look pretty good out there. What were your thoughts, Keisha?
Oh, man. This was a tough game because it came down to a couple of things that I thought are fixable, but especially after these 2 games for the Dream, I thought it'd be something that would be improved upon so that when we got to the Liberty, we'd be firing on all cylinders. And that's not just always the case. I thought, again, free throws. And that was on both sides. Free throws were bad. I knew going into this game, thinking about what the Liberty are trying to accomplish this year, I know that Sandy, the head coach for the Liberty, has been thinking about what it would mean to have a repeat championship while maintaining a focus of getting things done, improving last year's weaknesses, polishing those experienced players, and bringing in the firecracker that is Natasha Cloud. So she had her hands full, and I think she thought that this game was going to look a lot different. It was competitive, there was a lot of edge, but the Liberty really left the door wide open for the Fever for a lot of this game. And I wish they could have stepped through, but the thing about them is that if you give New York any opportunity to get back into momentum, to reclaim a lead, that's going to be a problem. They will take those opportunities. They're not missing. I mean, not to blow again, steam up their jerseys here, but you're looking at some of the best talented starting five, maybe the best. Is that crazy to say? It's very early, but they have some of the most talented players on their roster right now. Jonquel Jones, Breonna Stewart, Sabrina. And then they've had the addition, again, of Natasha Cloud, who's just phenomenal. And they have taller... The transition from Vandersloot to Natasha Cloud, I think, is a big game changer for New York. And they already were great last year. So for this game, I think it was just a combination of poor officiating on both sides and just really bad free throws. What was going on with the free throws, guys?
What we saw in the first half, we weren't very focused on offense. So one thing we hadn't brought up yet is between this game and last game, it took a long time. I think it was 13 3-pointers until Caitlin Clark hit one.
Ooh.
So she didn't hit one last game. It was the first time in her career. And then this game, it took her a while to also hit her 3-pointers. That was a problem. And I think that our offense was beginning to sputter. Not that it's all built around her 3-pointers, because it really isn't. Usually she jacks one up either early and a mismatch, or sometimes late as the clock's going down. Like, she kind of uses them as a let-off valve because she likes to dish the ball around. She's not a selfish player at all. And I think that did kind of throw us for a loop, though, as everybody, I think, was on board on, hey, Caitlin's got to shoot her way out of this. Let's let this happen. And I think it kind of just made everybody go like, wait a second, what are we doing out here? And you would see it, like, our focus on offense sort of drift. Like, we would do good in spurts, and then we'd kind of go back to, what are we doing? Like, some ISO plays. Like, what's going on? Why aren't we passing the ball around? And it felt like it was either working or it wasn't. And it would, like, go back and forth on that. The other piece I noticed was, like, we just could not stop the Liberty from getting to the paint the first half. Absolutely couldn't. It was almost embarrassing, you could say. I was like, they could just, whenever they wanted, any person from anywhere on the court just drive into the paint, and we couldn't stop them. And that was not cool.
Yeah, I mean, the first three turnovers were all Clark. They were just, I feel like they struggled to find rhythm in the first half. I mean, they got there, and it wasn't like, again, they were not getting blown out. It wasn't crazy, but it was like that chemistry missing. I think that really cost the game. Not finding the flow, having to kind of dig out of a hole of just not being able to figure out how to respond was a struggle.
Yeah, and I feel like that was the thing as they slowly did figure it out. Because they stopped the bleeding about halfway through the second quarter and started to really dig in against the lead going into the half. Now, they were still ahead at the half, but they really started to put a lot more fight into it, I felt like, after and kind of started to figure things out. I mean, like I said, Caitlin wasn't hitting her 3-point, but she had 8 assists in the first half. So it was like, she was like, okay, I'm going to contribute here somehow. Like, I'm going to make something happen, even if that shot isn't hitting. One thing I also wanted to bring up, I think it was really clear afterwards, if you watch the post game, I think Caitlin was sick with something. She was like sniffing the whole time. She looked out of it. I was pretty impressed when I found that out. I thought she was just having a tough game because she was moving just fine out there. But at the end, when I saw her, I was like, oh, shoot, I think she's sick. Which, people play sick all the time. They're all professionals. probably not that big a deal, but just something to throw in there. The other thing I noticed is I felt like Howard was not quite able to keep up foot speed wise in this game. It was the lateral movement for Howard. And I think when we realized that, that's where things started to turn around in the second half. We were like, we need to go somewhere else. And the place we went to, which was my huge takeaway from this game, we have a fastball as this team. It's nice to already know what our fastball is. It's the Caitlin, Aaliyah Boston, two-man game, high pick and roll. It's disgusting. It's so good. They can do so many things off of it. The other team knows it's coming, and the question is, can they stop it? And the answer is the Liberty can stop it if you give them an entire half. So, like, we leaned on it to get back in the game. We started going to the fastball, and we went again, and we went again, and again, and again, and we got in the lead. We had a huge lead. I think we're up 12 points at one point, you know? And I'm like, we're doing this. But you give the champs enough time. You give a fantastic coach on the other end enough time, and they're like, okay, if that's what they're going to do, we're going to figure out a way to stop it. Which is, to me, kind of, like, in a nutshell, not to make it all that simple, I felt like that's what happened. But that's also why I didn't feel that bad coming out of it. I was like, it's nice to know we have that. If we just keep that in our pocket till we need it, don't lean on it the whole second half, I mean, that's just nice to know you have it. And it's nice to give people film to see that and have to prepare. Yeah. And then when we do other stuff, you know, it'll be even more effective. So
I think the Fever were lucky to have Mitchell really show gumption, like true tenacity in this game. I think she really kept the Fever in it, especially as more people started getting frustrated and calls weren't being called and plays were getting blown up from those poor or lack thereof of calls. One thing that I have this underlined and highlighted in all caps is Hull is a nuisance on defense. And
gosh.
I don't know if it's too soon. Most improved player, 6th man of the year. I don't know. I feel like there's something. Lexi Hull is on something.
She deserves
She's
something.
on something, and she needs.
Something.
Recognition is due. I'm really, really impressed with her play. I love seeing her on the court, and I think the speed and cleverness she brings to an offense. Gosh, I love that. I love seeing the creativity she has on losing her man just on footwork alone. She is a huge asset here. But unfortunately, New York just wasn't laying off, even though they struggled just as badly at the free throw with their insane. We talked about it earlier, but let's just put this into the conversation. New York from the free throw line was 23 for 30. 23 for 30. 30 free throws shot. Indiana was 9 for 13. 13. Mm-hmm. Chris, I said 13 to 30. I'm not saying
no
that the officials are bad people. It's a hard job. But what are you doing?
It's a hard job. I fully admit
it's a hard job.
No, and that's the thing. So that's what another thing to bring up. This is the game that Stephanie White decided to talk about it on. She said herself, it's not like we're just jacking up threes. Because we're not. That is not how the Fever hang their hat. They shoot threes. They shoot them well. But we're a team that pounds the paint. And like I said, we did it the whole second half. In general, if you're pounding the paint, you're going to be competitive. You should be competitive in the amount of free throws that you're receiving. That's just how it works.
52 points in the paint.
That was not
52 points in the paint for Indiana this game. That's a lot.
Correct. If you look at the shot chart, there's a bunch of X's outside of the arc. Let's just say. And there's a lot of green.
No, I got it right here.
No,
7 for 22 for Indiana, 7 for 25 for New York. It was bad threes all around, but it was a ghost town. But those free throws, 88 to 86, knowing that you were 9 for 13 at the line, we're shooting free throws for the next 3 days. That's all we're doing. Everyone's shooting 100 free throws in a row, and if you miss, we're starting over. That's my mentality as a coach. If we're losing by 2 points, it's frustrating. I think this is going to spark a fire for them to not only show that they can win without Caitlin, but they feel like they got a little chip on their shoulder now going into the second week.
Mm-hmm. No, I think all in all, I'm very comfortable with where we are. I kind of like even that we're down because that's the right place to be. Like, I was a little nervous that we'd just like steamroll into this season, you know, because we have a lot of talent on our team and that we wouldn't have to put in that work in the beginning. But we do, and it's fine. There's plenty of games to play. I'm not worried. I am worried Caitlin's up, but it's only 2 weeks. She's going to be fine. They don't even know. Okay, we don't even get too into it because there's literally no information out there. But as of right now, they don't know when she got injured. They didn't say it was during the game, during practice. They're just like, she was sore. We got an MRI. Turns out she has a strain. That's all the information out there. I got to tell you, Keisha, I'm not comfortable with that.
I think it's kind of just keeping the cards, close because everybody's wanting to know when is she. How are we going to prepare? I think that's a good segue into these upcoming games. Is how do we prepare for the Fever if we don't know what that lineup's going to look like? Is she back in 2 weeks?
Okay. So to not make this too long of an episode, give us the rundown though. Give us your Keisha's scouting report on. Let's see. We have on Wednesday the DC Mystics, and then we got on Friday Connecticut.
Okay,
Sun.
boom.
What do you think's going on there?
So, for the Mystics, they are the wild card of the season so far because they're pretty rookie heavy. They have returners in Steph Dolson, who's incredible.
Mama
Dolson. Mom Steph. She is a great post player. Has a wicked outside shot. She sets a lot of screens. She's doing a lot of work off the ball that doesn't show up in the stat line, but she's a huge asset to the Mystics. Then you have Brittany Sykes, who's had a phenomenal start to her season. I think if you were watching Unrivaled, you saw that she is not only is she incredibly athletic, but she is a playmaker. Then the two big factors are Sonia Citron and Kiki Irifin, who are the two starters who were drafted one right after the other. And we're talking about one of the Notre Dame's big three guard and the post for USC. So Kiki's working it. She just had a game against some pretty aggressive and big post players, and she did not back down even a little bit. I'm excited to see what she looks like against Boston and against Howard. So those are the ones you got to keep an eye on. In addition, there's some other sneaky hits. Melbourne for the Mystics is a really great guard. She's aggressive. She attacks. But yeah, that's a pretty wild bench. You don't know what's going to pop off there. Anybody could show up. Anybody could start. So it's hard to be prepared when you really don't know what the lineup's going to look like. Then you have the Sun, who are in the beginning of a build-back year. They lost their entire starting roster and their coach.
Where did their coach go?
Oh, boy. Yeah, so this is the first matchup where you have Marina Mabry seeing her former teammate and coach. And Mabry, talk about a chip on her shoulder. Mabry is ready to hunt heads. They've had some pretty impressive games where people thought they were going to be at the bottom of the barrel, but they're rocking it hard. You also have Tina Charles in addition to Mabry. Tina Charles is one of the best post players in the country, the world maybe. She shoots so far high behind her head you can't block her. She's a giant. She's smart. She can shoot all over the court. And Connecticut is aggressive. They're very aggressive, and they're not aggressive sometimes. They're aggressive from jump ball to the final whistle. So that's going to be a very physical game. So if Indiana's feeling tired, if there's any injuries, that could be a problem because Connecticut does not give a hoot about much except trying to prove a point that this may be a brand new team, but we got a lot to say.
Yeah, I expect some fire from them in front of their old coach. being like, look what you could have had. Look at me now, Dad.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're going to be
Okay.
saying. Look at me now, Dad.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Keisha. Always a great time talking to you about specifically Fever basketball, among other things. But that was a fun week of very close games, and I look forward to what this next week holds. Anyways, hope you guys all have a good one, and we'll see you next week on Fever Replay.